What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast, YouTube video all about the history and nostalgia of hip hop, but most importantly, preservation of hip hop music and culture. With me, as always, it's the homie, it's my partner in crime on this podcast, 70 something episodes. Tony from Into the Dome podcast. What's good, bro?
What's good, man? Look, I'm drinking. You probably can't. Okay, there it is. Water, because I did 35 miles about 2 hours ago with the group, man, and I drank a fake beer is what I call it, non-alcoholic beverage.
Right.
But it's a beer, but it's not alcoholic beer. 35 calories because I got to stay at a certain weight as we start getting prepared for the spring, man. Because Rob was a pretty fast dudes, man. So I got to keep it light, man. So I got water tonight. Unlike last year, I would have my hazy IPA. I had to get off the hazy IPAs and that's light lagers of water, bro. But anyway, I'm good, man. How you doing, man?
You got it. You got to, man. I got a little bit of water here, but the water's here because the bourbon's here also.
Yeah. Oh, look, man. I went to a bourbon share, man, about a month ago, man. One of my guys, man, he lived probably about 5 miles away. He's a big bourbon collector. His man cave is insane with the bourbon, man. So I was never really a big bourbon guy, man, but he really been educating me more lately, man. And a nice bourbon that's real smooth, man, is a good look.
Yeah, a little nice sipper. You don't need a lot. Let it breathe a little bit. The aromas, yeah. Like I kind of got shout out to YouTube. One of the great things about the internet, right? When you don't know about certain shit, you just watch a couple of reviews and you like, shit, I think I'm about to go get me something.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing it for a little while, and I don't drink a lot, to be honest. So it stays in my crib, but
yeah,
now and again it's nice to pull it out, want a little sip, little buzz while you watch the game. You can do that.
You're right, right.
For those of y'all watching who may not know, this is That Time in Hip Hop. Again, we've done so many different episodes, not only about albums or record labels or artists or moguls or films within hip hop music and culture, but it's all about taking that historical context, providing something that's more truthful. You know what I'm saying? We do our research. We lived through a lot of it also, so we have our own perspectives. You know what I'm saying? I'm from New York City. He's from North Carolina. So there you are. You have another perspective also. We could have easily did an all North Carolina show or all New York City show, but that's not the point. Hip hop is for everybody. And if you look at the episodes we've done thus far, we've covered so many people that people like to bring up, right? Y'all want to argue about Hamo? We did an episode on that.
Yep.
Want to argue about Mace? We covered that. Y'all want to argue about Big Al? We covered that also. Jermaine Dupri keeps going and going. And last year, after taking a little bit of a break, we did some very dope episodes from Loud Records to Raucous.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Forever album. We talked about that in detail. And in more recent times, Drake versus Kendrick, right? Because that's one of the most historical battles of all time. We're still arguing about it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I think, if you should definitely check those out. The playlist is right here on Hip Hop Now podcast. You can check out all the episodes. You can comment. We check out the comments, or you can follow us on social media and do the same thing. Because it's really about preserving the culture, talking about the culture in detail, and just making sure, we don't let those people that like to rewrite history get to say, because
gotta stop
it. Happened. Right. This is what happened. This is actually what happened.
Actually what
happened. Speaking of what happened in hip hop, January 28th, 1968, Rakim Allah was born. Tone, there's so much that we've said about this man and on our podcast, other podcasts, this podcast. But just Rakim in general, what you think he means to hip hop, what he means to you as a hip hop fan, and what are like 3 of your favorite songs from him?
Man, shout out to the R, man. Listen, being in junior high and high school, being turned on to, to paid in full, follow the leader, don't let the rhythm hit him, don't sweat the technique, all of this stuff like that, man. Rakim was one of the guys, man. The God MC for a reason. He is one of the ones who shifted, the climate of hip hop in terms of lyricism and flow. I mean, before him, you did have, your Cass, Mo D, even LL, and I'm missing someone else that said Cass, Mo D, who I'm Melly Mel, what I'm saying? So you had a lot of those guys, and even, like I said, Run DMC as well. Like they had a certain style, man, and Rakim slowed it all down. Just like when Marlon Marbley said when he listened to was it Check Out My Melody?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. He was like, this dude, it's too slow, dog. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing, like you rhyming too slow. You know what I'm saying? But Rakim got it. A lot of people didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? And then next thing you know, a whole generation is influenced. Of course, they're influenced by him and others from his era, but he is one of the ones that people go to say he's that standard, man. And I remember writing one of my first articles on intothedome.com was Rakim, the Miles Davis of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Because same way Miles had Kind of Blue, you know what I'm saying? Everybody in Rakim had Paid in Full. You know what I'm saying? And for some people younger who'll be listening to this episode, Paid in Full, my people, was the first Illmatic. The same way people say Illmatic shifted lyricism, Well, Rakim had done that quite a few years before that with Paid in Full. Just the humble brother. I remember meeting him here in North Carolina at a concert. You know what I'm saying? It was a small, nice venue, man. And at the end, he came through and started showing people love, man. And I was able to, dap him, pound him, say what I say to him, man. And he was like what I expected, man. Just a real laid back, cool, humble brother. Definitely has a presence, you know what I'm saying? He's who you think Rakim would be. And it ain't always like that, because sometimes don't meet your heroes, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll be let down. And you both of us have met plenty of people, you know what I'm saying? But everybody, you don't leave a certain impression, man. And Rakim was exactly who I thought he was, man. And as far as three favorite songs that come to mind, first is the Microphone Theme, you know what I'm saying? Because obviously that's another song that people studied. A lot of your favorites from the 90s studied. Rakim studied Follow the Leader, especially. You know what I'm saying? But that joint, another song later in his career from the album The Master is a song called Waiting for the World to End, produced by DJ Premier. You know what I'm saying? And just real quick, I see he said something like, through my travels, I try to take righteous steps because right or left could mean life or death. And it just goes into a whole crazy flow. But I love the song, man. And it's real introspective. And then finally, man, going to the album Don't Sweat the Technique, track number 1, What's on Your Mind? I see me in the subway on the way to Brooklyn. Hello, good looking. Is this seat took it on the A train, picking up the brain? Couldn't get a name, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that was Rakim too. He could give you the hardcore joints without cursing, and he could also do joints for the chicks. But it was still mellow and smooth as well, man. What's your thoughts on Rakim, man, Vague, man, and your 3 songs that come to mind? Is anything else you want to say about the God, man?
Man, I'm just like you, man. I heard him early. This is probably like, parties and block parties as a kid, just hearing the different records playing on the radio and watching, older brothers, older cousins react to it, kind of influence like, yo, I think it's dope, but they think it's crazy also. And like you said, for those who don't know, for one, he put out a great biography a couple of years ago that I did a review on. That if you want to know who Rakim is and the method to his madness, it's perfect. He breaks down lyrics, all kinds of stuff. But that's one of the things that people need to understand. When you say Rakim changed the game, they got to look at how people were rhyming before Rakim, and more importantly, his technique. His technique wasn't just I'm gonna just rhyme a different way. He was a jazz head, inspired by John Coltrane, and in the book they show how he writes his rhymes. I swear, I've never seen anybody write rhymes that look like equations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy because he would put his inflections within the rhymes. Like, for me as an MC, I just remember how I said it. and I remember where I want my inflections to go. Now, Rakim was writing everything in his rhymes. So, and again, just a history of very dope music, classic albums, classic songs. For me, top three, Eric B is President.
Yeah.
Just something about that record and hearing those lyrics for the first time where I was just like, yo, nobody's rapping like this. Like, what is he talking about? Especially when you go back, you're like, damn, when was this? What year? Um, Microphone Fiend, Like You, that beat, oh my god. I remember like thirsting to see the video, black and white video and all of that. And the last one, and I think this kind of crept into, I mean, obviously we got a bunch of favorites, but this probably crept into my top three. Get It. I just didn't pay attention to that record as much when it came out. It was just it was a new rock record. It was dope. But as I got older and lyrics got more complicated and go back and listen, I'm like, yeah, do you hear what Rakim is saying and how
It
he's
still
saying it?
stands today. It still
Yeah,
sounds good today. It transcends time, man.
right. Like you said, it's timeless music, and I just hope people appreciate him and his pen while he's here. Which I'm seeing a lot of that on social media, but I
Yeah.
just don't want to see the overwhelming stuff when the brother eventually, like us all, transition. I think he need all that love right now. So.
And let me say this too, real quick, babe. I posted probably about a year or two ago that Rakim has been my GOAT MC since the late '80s, all the way up until Nas took that throne from him for me during this King Disease run. I think around the time when I listened to King Disease 3 all the way through, commuting one day, I was like, you know what? I think Anakin Skywalker finally killed Obi-Wan Kenobi, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's a beautiful thing because Nas is from the school of Rakim. He said that before. Nas listed his favorite MCs, and Rakim was his favorite MC for the most part, along with G-Rap, Scarface, Ice Cube, and one other individual escapes me right now. But nevertheless, that's how I revere Rakim. He was literally the GOAT MC to me all the way through junior high school, college, up to a grown man. I'm 49 now. That didn't change till I was like 47 years old. You know what I'm saying? I felt like Nas kind of eclipsed him as his understudy. You know what I'm saying? So that's a beautiful thing because someone has to eclipse everyone at some point in whatever profession. But man, the guy Rakim, man, just like you said, man, we really can't say enough about it, man.
Yeah, man. Happy birthday to him. He's 57.
Happy birthday, man.
He's 57 years old, which
beautiful.
Still nice and young. He's still out there, and supposedly I know he released an album last year, but supposedly he has another album that's coming out. That's
because that was more collaboration thing he did with people. It wasn't a rock.
He was more producer than rapper, but supposedly he has an actual album dropping soon. So we'll be on the lookout for that. What are your favorite or three favorite Rakim records of all time? Leave your comments in the comment section below. We'll love to know the ledges on your list. I mean, you got plenty of them.
Plenty.
Plenty joints. So let us know. Now we're going to get into the main topic of this episode. You saw the title. You saw the cover. You know what I'm saying? And in hip hop in general, there are a lot of eras, golden eras, and the Death Row era, and the Bad Boy era, or the Shiny Suit era, or whatever. But there's a more recent era that now, when we look back, it was kind of crazy, and I think we need to put a microscope on it and really talk about it. So, Tone, tell us what we're here to talk about today.
When you first brought this to my attention, it made me really think and reminisce a little bit. Like, at some point, man, like, there was a big shift in music. When we talk about hip hop today, so we're talking about a shift in hip hop. Like, at some point when the blog era started, and I don't even know, we didn't even really call it that then. I mean, it was different names and stuff like that. But when it started, music changed because a few things happened, babe. One, a lot of strangers who would have never been able to communicate with each other started being able to talk to each other. People from different states. And at some point, because of the internet, people from all over the world who had a common interest got a chance to like join message boards and blogs and stuff like that. Have your username, your password. You could name yourself, after your favorite Biggie 221. You know what I mean? You can name yourself a rapper if you want to, or you could be yourself. In most of the cases, me personally, I was always Tony. You know what I'm saying? So, but you could communicate, talk about the music that you loved. Another thing it did, Vay, for some artists, they decided to get involved. Now you actually had access to talk to some of your favorite rappers, some of your favorite producers, from some of your favorite DJs, people who was in the industry, maybe managers, people who was, writers and things of that nature. So it opened up that whole communication that was never there before in music. Because at one point, you saw musicians on TV, you saw an interview, so people in the industry in general, and then or you had to go to a meet and greet when they had a record release, or maybe they had some meet and greet after a concert vague. But now with the blog era, it brought everyone together in terms of like you had the opportunity to talk to people. And man, we're gonna get into like different websites and blogs and all of this stuff like that, man. But for you, and we're talking about early 2000s people, we're talking about 99, 2000, 2001. Some of it started, some of the message boards started as early as 99, 2000. Like right during the whole pirating with Napster and LimeWire and all that. Message boards started during that time, man. So for you, Vay, when you first started, do you remember the first one? And when you first started getting into the message boards and blogs and stuff, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, like when you talking like 99, 2000, I was on the radio in B-More doing a hip hop show. So we stayed in chat rooms, Yahoo chat rooms and stuff like that. And I remember even one time, shout out to Lil Mike, who was a DJ on the show, but he knew he had some technical prowess. He was like, yo, I could stream the show to the internet and set up a live chat room for it. Now, it lasted one show, but it was glorious because they shut us down. The school shut us down.
Right.
But that one night, being able to connect with people before Twitter, you know what I'm saying? You going live, you playing music, you getting instant reactions. They talking to you, you talking to them. So I just thought it was great, even to your point, with just kind of looking at the landscape of hip hop heads being able to connect, because you're not even thinking, you're just connecting with different people.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, it's a bunch of hip hop heads on this chat room or whatever. But I think the one thing that I really got into early in that era was MySpace. Because at first it was the nice little set up profile kind of thing. But I remember at some point I started posting content, right? Songs I had been making at the time. And one artist in particular who I discovered through MySpace and did a lot of back and forth, because to your point, it was Jay Electronica, by the way. But to your point, back then, you just message dudes.
Yeah.
Like your shit, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So you're right. I mean, that early internet, that early interaction between people, especially on the hip hop side, it was a fun time. It was a glorious time because it was new for everybody.
And man, speaking of MySpace, real quick, because MySpace used to have your top 8 and all this stuff like that or whatever. But MySpace at one point was really utilized by a lot of people in the industry. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, would speak back to you, real comment to you, and just real quick, and just outside of hip hop, real quick. MySpace at one point, man, me and because I used to write poetry, you know what I'm saying, and so did Chico DeBarge, who if you know the DeBarge family, and Chico had issues when he came out with that album in the late '90s, Long Time No See. I mean, him and El DeBarge did the album. It sounded like some D'Angelo type. It was an amazing album, and Chico was on one. But me and Chico used to communicate pretty often on MySpace because of that, even to the point, and this is my point of saying this, people, where at one point he was doing a show in Raleigh, North Carolina, and because of our relationship on MySpace, he hit me one time on MySpace, said, hey man, you more than welcome, come to the concert, man, and I come through the back, man, we hang. Unfortunately, that weekend I was going out of town. You know what I'm saying? I was going out of state for a family situation or whatever, and I couldn't go. But that was just the thing. And then, of course, after that, because he had a lot of these fight a lot of demons. After that, we kind of fell out of touch, man. I never had, didn't really speak to him a lot after that. But that's just an example of places like MySpace where you could really talk to people, and some people was very cool and humble, and they appreciated any feedback on their music and whatever else they was doing. I know you probably seen that with some people in Vegas as well, man. But I also like to say this too. During that time, one of the communities, and we'll go in detail about it at some point, that I really want to shout out to, as far as that message board and blog area, was OK Player. You know what I'm saying? Because Questlove started that joint way back in the day, but in 1999, he started that message board on OK Player. You know what I'm saying? And that was really for a lot of the soul aquarium, whatever, got people with like the Roots and all these kind of people like that, the dealer type people. A lot of those type of people were on OK Player. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was on there, man, Talib Kweli was on there a lot. Ninth One was on there a lot. The little brother was on there. I think like people like Slum Village and a bunch of underground here. I think Common came a couple of times, and like most. I mean, a lot of people came on OK Player and were really active. I blacked out, if I'm not mistaken. Like some of them did boards and subjects and stuff like that, and brought up conversation, and we would all go there and talk, and they all kept responding. I mean, it was a real good community, and will bring you closer to the artist. And another thing it made you do also is if you vibing right with the right people, it'll make you support their music even more.
Yep.
And so that's one of the things I noticed, saying OK Player. And of course, sometimes too, it can make you love or hate certain artists, but nevertheless, that access started way back in the blog era, and it was the precursor to what we see now with Twitter and IG and all that. It was the beginning stages of that communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to forget about it. You know what I'm saying? Because Twitter and Instagram and all these other sites have become these other things that they're those experiences, but even more. And you can share even more of yourself. But you're right, because even on hip hop websites, comment sections sometimes became places to go hang out and voice opinions and stuff like that. Real quick, for those who don't know, like early on in that era, sure, I was doing a radio show and all of that, but once I left the radio show, maybe around 2002, and I started helping to produce it, I spent a lot of my time on the internet because of the Napsters and shout out to Boxton. That's been around forever. I think I still have an account. In these different social places, because it was like you were tapping into the hip hop community, and you were getting music before it was out. You know what I'm saying? And we had a radio show where there was no strings attached, so we was playing whatever. But it really had me like hunker into the internet and different sites. And even though I wasn't on OK Player, it was all these other places where a lot of the same things were happening. And I don't think people understand like how revolutionary that was, even at that early stage.
It really was.
You know what I'm saying? To have that kind of interaction, like to your point, especially with the artists you're listening to. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and a lot of those guys at that time too, and I'm just using OK Player as an example. We got other places we'll talk about too, but I'm using an example because certain artists sometimes will come on there and, like, let's say they're working on an album, they might put a song on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, or a producer might put a beat on there and be like, yo, this is one joint I'm working on or whatever. So it was also giving you're usually able to not only talk to artists and other fans and stuff, and some fans who were aspiring MCs or aspiring producers and stuff like that, some of them would share, you know what I'm saying, that, or like, hey, I email you, whatever the case may be. I mean, these are early stages of stuff, people, you know what I'm saying, but they'll find a way to, and even people was even like, yo, I'll mail you my CD, or my tape, or whatever the case may be, man. So these early stages, man, really laid the groundwork for where we are now. Speaking of music, man, you remember like how dope datpiff was?
Man, datpiff was like my lifeblood,
Oh
bro.
my God, they had everything on there, man.
Everything was on there.
Shout out to
Um,
that Piff too.
Shout out to datpiff, man, because it was like the plug. Because for those who don't know, if you go into, let's say, really actually the late 80s, maybe even mid 80s, maybe even further than that, but definitely in the late 80s and absolutely in the 90s, mixtapes were like, you got to go to like New York,
Yeah,
and on the street, you got to be like, give me that Clue, give me that SNS, that Ron G, Kid Capri, like
do
you got to
wop
go out
all
there, right? Or if you were like, and not just college, but just using it as an example, if you were in college, maybe you couldn't go, but your homie from NY,
Yep,
he going up there, he
yep,
bringing everything back. It was kind of like that was how you got to almost anything and everything, which meant you didn't always get to it. You didn't
yep.
always hear everything. That Piff was like that worldwide.
It was.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
You could get everything on that. I mean, you know what's crazy about that Piff too? Like, and I know we're gonna get into like mixtapes and how certain mixtapes are really kind of like albums with original music. That Piff had those artists putting stuff on that Piff. It wasn't like over like the Benjamins or over like some. It was original music. Like artists were from famous artists to like mid tier to like really underground. People were they had really good projects on there of original music. It was incredible, man.
it was unbelievable because I remember, having worked in radio at that point in time, especially like on a hip hop show, I kept thinking to myself, like, man, these record labels gonna shut this shit down because this is basically like an album, or in some cases, this is better than the
Yeah,
official album. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? And I think it was also dope for like new artists, artists who were up and coming who really embraced
yeah.
the era of music. But it was a gold mine, you know what I'm saying, to go there and just what was didn't they have like a release day, I think, too, like a Friday or something
They
crazy?
might have. I'm gonna tell you what, man. I hate to say this because don't get me wrong. I went to a record store and spent thousands of dollars in the '90s and early 2000s on music. And in the '90s, when I was a college student, and I've said this on podcasts before, we had a spot called School Kids, right across the street from my school. And I went there every Tuesday and spent money because I worked for the university. So I don't get me wrong, I wasn't 100% pirate, but at the same time, during that era when you had all of those Napster type things, and even having something like that Piff. Yeah, I bought, man. You remember we used to you go to Walmart and you buy 100 of those CDs, man. And I'm gonna burn out every last one of these damn CDs. You know what I'm saying? I got me a nice magic marker. This is that new so and so. This is that
Right,
so.
right,
So
right.
and I still probably got 1,000 of them in my basement put up. I swear to God. Oh, I swear. I saw one of the boxes today. You know what I'm saying? Down there, it was heavy shit. But anyway, but yeah, Vay, like it was especially aspiring guys who was really trying to get their name out there. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? They was releasing a lot of. Some of them had like 5 or 6 projects on there.
Right,
One artist might have 5 mixtapes on there.
right. Which when you think about it, Tone, as much as we talk about like, damn, all these artists releasing multiple albums per year,
That's how it was.
it's kind of where it started. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It really coming full circle.
yeah, that mixtape era. Maybe that's what it is. Not to jump ahead, but maybe that's what it is when sometimes we have a disdain for the amount of projects being released. But I guess it's because it's being released officially as opposed to when they were doing it on that pip. We didn't complain at all.
No, we didn't.
Um,
No, and that's why sometimes as we get older, we not. It's sometimes older guys, older cats knock like the young fans, but we did the same thing.
yep.
You know what I mean? Like again, we was on that pill. I might in one weekend, I might have burned down 15 CDs.
Yeah. I posted a couple too. Like shout out to Kill. Some of our early albums happened during the blog era, and they were right there on that pit for everybody else. Um, one thing I wanted to point out also just about the whole blog situation, but after I stopped producing, because I moved to New Jersey in like '07, but after I stopped producing for the hip hop show, um, you know, I was on Twitter early. I don't know when it started, but it was
Yeah.
early. I remember one of the dudes who used to listen to the show found me on Twitter. And he was like, damn, I missed this one segment you used to do on the show. I wish there was a way you could still do that. And then that's when I was like, oh, shit, I could create a blog. I could, podcasting was early, but I already knew about it. I already had content to go towards. Like I
Yeah.
used to do this podcast called, damn, what's the name of it now? I can't, One to Flow On, right?
Okay.
And I used to write for radio. I used to literally write the segment, and all it was to pick a topic for the week, write about it, my opinion, obviously, and record it with little things with the audio and stuff like that. So it was kind of like podcast ready at the time, short form. But I had a blog called hiphoppolitic.com that essentially, if you follow me on IG, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever, or YouTube, all my opinions and the content and what I'm listening to, that's what the blog was. Literally everything, like Tumblr and stuff like that.
Yeah.
WordPress and Blogger. Shout out to Kill because he also had We'll Make Beats for Food back in the blog era also. And it was interesting because it was dope to like create content for hip hop heads, right? And back then people would read,
Yeah. People read back then.
People were reading. So, I was writing. And every now and again, it might be an image or something like that. But I think it got to a point with the blog era. And honestly, you could thank World Star and probably Two Dope Boys.
Oh, man. World Star, Two Dope Boys.
That shit was just put the video up with the title. That's it.
Yep.
And they killed that blogging shit in hip hop. All that writing, they killed it because people were more like eager to jump at the new video or
it was a shift, for better or for worse, man. On one hand, it was like, okay, so now y'all's too lazy to read, which reading is fundamental. You need to be still reading and keep yourself sharp. But now it's kind of like I'm going to World Star, watch this video, and at some point, World Star, the popularity went through the roof, and some of the content became a little sideways outside of just music. And you know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, that's going a different direction. Well, I can appreciate when it was like, a lot of exclusive, like, if you're in somebody in the studio or somebody's in some kind of video or something like that. But then it became just kind of like more part of pop culture, which, I mean, at some points things grow. You know what I'm saying? I probably stopped, visiting the pages at that point. It's a lot less than, I initially did. But, it was monumental, man. World Star was, and then it got to a point where you got World Star. You know what I mean? Basically, like, yo, you don't want to be on World Star.
No.
So it went through a lot of transitions from being very interested in terms of music and just, then pop culture. Then some of the streaks got involved in World Star, and it's like, okay, you don't want to get knocked out, be on World Star.
Nope.
And then it became whatever it became.
What it became. And, for a lot of people, too, they forget that it was called World Star Hip Hop.
It was.
That's what it was. But to Tone's point, once somebody getting jumped in, I probably started with some celebrity or some rapper, and it just became a thing because of the numbers it would do. And especially Two Dope Boys, because one thing, Two Dope Boys made me change my blog at the time. Because I was like, maybe I stop writing so much and I'll just focus. I'll write for like a big topic, but I gotta post videos. I gotta post content because everybody's over there for that thing, and all they got is a title, not even a catchy title, a title and the video. I'm like, and they killing us.
Man, it's funny to think about how you was involved back then, and with me, I used to post a lot of different topics. Like, for example, the newest episode of the Dome podcast was track for track, Reasonable Doubt versus It Was Written. I posted it earlier today. But then I thought about it. It's good. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. You get a chance, people check it out, man. Like I sequence it's track 1 to track 1 all the way down to track 14. You know what I'm saying? But my point is going back to OK Player. I remember doing a post of like It Was Written versus Reasonable Doubt back in like 2002 on OK Player. You know what I'm saying? They had everybody arguing about it. I gave you power better than Can I Live? I mean, whatever. We was doing this, people. When you see us on Twitter doing this now, I was doing this with people on OK Player in 2002. You know what I'm saying? Like, so right. Some of those people, when I started my Twitter page, and they got, I guess people, more and more people start following me. So most people found me from OK Player. They found me from MySpace. They found me from the I Am Nas website. It was a message board, a Nas message board back after Stillmatic that I don't know who created it because he wasn't on there, but man, it was busy and popular. I liked it, man. So we was doing all this stuff way back then, man. So to the earlier points, like it opened up, man, a whole new world of people being able to share ideas and people from different coasts, you know what I'm saying? People and people from all over the world, you know what I'm saying? See how people perspective were about certain artists and certain albums. And then we noticed how big the underground artists were over in Europe.
Yeah.
In Africa. We learned a lot of that came us seeing it more and more because of the message boards.
Yeah, which is crazy because like you said, I follow a lot of technology just because I like it. I like a lot of tech, but it's crazy to think about an era in hip hop where it kind of influenced the game. You know what I'm saying? Because you like, for example, and I'm not really trying to harp on them or nothing like that, but when you see certain rappers complaining about, still using the term bloggers, which is crazy, when there ain't really no blogs like that, but they'll get upset, with fans voicing opinions, and it's like Tone just said, these conversations been happening in chat rooms and
20-some years now.
Like 20 something years ago. This is the world of online now, and it's just a little bit more direct with some more tools, but it's the same conversation. You know what I'm saying? But one thing, Tone, that obviously when we think about the blogs and the conversations and what is the name of that other joint? I know there was datpiff, but there was another one like hiphopmixtapes.com, something like that.
Yeah, man, it was that's quite a few after the big ones that we named. Some of them names escape me right now. As soon as we finish recording, some of us are popping in my head. But that was quite a few of them, man.
Boxing was a big one.
And then and then just the other hip hop websites that had message boards, like you had Hip Hop DX, soul.com,
right. Allhiphop.com.
Allhiphop.com, man. That's 3 more right there. I mean, it was quite a few, but those were the main ones.
Yeah, those were the main joints. Let's talk about what the blogs as well as sites like datpiff, like the people who reigned supreme during the blog era with their mixtapes and mixtape series and artists we were introduced to. What did you feel about that crop of people? And I'll just throw a few names out there for people like Kid Cudi was getting busy around that time. Wiz Khalifa, Currency, Lil Wayne, J. Cole, Drake, Wale, Kendrick, Meek Mill, Joe Budden, Currency. And the list goes on, to be honest. Joe Budden, right? Did I say Joe Budden?
Yeah, I said Joe Budden. Man, what it did was, for one, some of them, as famous as they are now, some of them weren't that famous back then. So this is when they started some of these guys' grind. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you hear these big, huge names now. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are moguls now. But everybody started somewhere. So everybody crawled before they start walking and running. You know what I'm saying? So during this time, you had somebody like Joe Budden, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude could really spit. You know what I'm saying? His mixtape series and stuff like that really put him on the map with spitters. But Lil Wayne was always busy. You know what I'm saying? Drake came out, like a lot of people don't understand. You see this big mogul in Drake now. Well, Drake before then, when he had like comeback season and stuff like that, he wasn't famous yet. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, he was buzzing. And the funny thing now, when we think of Drake, you talking about he hip hop, he hip hop, and all this stuff. Well, back then, when So Far Gone ended up coming out, people were glad that a dude could rap and sing, because before that, you had Fonte from Little Brother was doing Little Brother albums and the Foreign Exchange albums, and then and all of this stuff like that. Then you had like other people who used to sing and hooks and stuff like that. But so Drake wasn't dissed for that at that time during this mixtape era. He was praised for it, which is fun. How in his mind he probably thinking, but y'all used to love when I did this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like when he had, like I said, he had that Room for Improvement and Comeback Season 2 of his big CD. I mean, mixtapes. You know what I'm saying? Wiz Khalifa, he was popping mixtapes. Like you said, Fab. You know what I'm saying? Like the Locks. I mean, with Jadakiss and Styles having these mixtapes and all of this stuff started being spread during this time of pirating, during this time of message boards and blogs and all that stuff. People were saying, hey, man, you hear that new Saigon mixtape? You know what I'm saying? You hear that new, so-and-so mixtape? You know what I'm saying? What that was Wale would start coming off. I remember him and Nike did that Back to the Feature. I think I got that off datpiff. You know what I'm saying? So all this stuff started happening way before these guys got popular, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget about a lot of that stuff because they're so used to them and so much has happened, so much time has passed. But, like our future Wolfgang, right? You talk about Frank Ocean's in that. You know what I'm saying? Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt. Like all these cats were making these basically damn near albums and really introducing themselves to the game through the blog era and the different blogs and the chat rooms was spreading the word about these albums. Like we said, like Jay Electronica on Facebook, not Facebook, MySpace. Before he was really known, but I was hearing stuff about him and his projects was like right there. You know what I'm saying? And eventually went to datpiff.
And you know what's crazy, man? When people think about all of the albums that on YouTube now and stuff like that, people having their own pages and they share their videos, they sharing their albums and stuff like that. And of course, they still share them on other platforms. Man, when we think back on these platforms from back then, especially something like datpiff and Two Dope Boys, datpiff they might have had 1,000 albums up there. I mean, mixtapes and stuff, man. Man, it was countless pages of mix. Like I said, I spent weekends sipping something, downloading, burning. You know what I'm saying? And I went by myself. You know what I'm saying? There was thousands and thousands of people just like me. So the availability of so much, we keep talking about, and it's funny when we say it's full circle. Like people say, man, every week now it's too much music. They overload us with music. Well, back then we were looking for the music and trying to be overloaded with music, and we was burning 10 mixtapes in a week.
Yeah,
we was going online while I stand up all day. You know what I'm saying? So now it's available different, but we been hypocrites and we complain about too much music being not cool. We was literally searching for the music back then and overloading ourselves with stacks and stacks of burnt CDs.
That's what's crazy about it. Right. That's what's kind of crazy about it, because when you think about, like, even just me using, like, use the example what you were doing and me using the same example of us kind of coming from a whole nother era where you had to go and leave the house. Not only could you download from there, you could stream. You know what I'm saying? You could look at ratings. You could rate the joints. You could get somebody a whole mixtape series. Like I discovered Currency once he started the mixtapes.
Yeah.
So when I went in there, I'm like, this dude releasing felt like every week. And every time, the pilot series or whatever it was, I was just getting them joints. So it was a time where, hip hop heads were hungry.
Yeah.
For that content, and they were getting fed. And I mean, some will argue, I mean, I think it's an opinion to say, oh, well, the music was better back then. But I think when we're nostalgic for music of our time, we'll always say that. We'll always say it was better back then because it's tied to memories and nostalgia that makes you happy. You know,
I
providing.
think that, yeah, absolutely. I think that as any of us start getting older and start looking at life different, you do start to, your
Mhm.
life becomes like literally like a book. Like that's the old cliche, of course, but different chapters. And and the fun chapters a lot of times are the early chapters. It's like being a kid riding your bike and you still having these memories, or you go to your high school graduation, you talk to dudes that you grew up with, and some of them you might have went to elementary school with. And there's like, man, you remember that time, man? We made those wrestling belts out of cardboard boxes, man. And you was Hulk Hogan, man. I was the Iron Sheik, bro. And we grown men talking about that now. They take you back to a warm and beautiful place, innocence in your childhood. And like, obviously, music is time step. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, what was your favorite album in high school? Well, mine was Midnight Marauders, right? Or something like that, or just for example. So it takes me back to that. So yes, I'm going to be biased towards the Midnight Marauders because that album helped raise me. You know what I'm saying? So to your point, it's more sentimental value for us to talk about our favorites from junior high and high school and even college. So if I'm 20 years older than another hip hop fan and Lil Wayne is Tupac to them, how can I say he's not?
Right. Exactly.
You
And
know,
look, Tone, imagine like we came up when we came up, like we talked about Rakim, first time hearing him and all of that.
yeah,
Imagine being coming of age, like you like 12, you get into hip hop, and that piff is kind of like your era. Like,
right,
can you imagine how much music you're discovering
right.
just off of sites like
Overwhelming.
yeah, yeah, it is. One thing I want to point out, uh, so the guy who I forget his name now, but the guy who owned that piff, who eventually sold it, because the record company situation, streaming services, it just kind of it took away a lot of the thunder from that piff, and it was a lot of red tape or whatever. But
Uh-huh.
he talked about that, like how it was more direct with artists back then. So he could get a new Lil Wayne mixtape up exclusively on that piff without the label being involved. Because technically, contractually, these weren't albums.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you remember like the download status would be like this album, this mixtape is platinum. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
I would see
Yep.
that shit and be like, oh, let me download that shit. Everybody
Because you know what? That was like letting you know this joint is fire. Because
right,
everybody rated it and everybody get already downloaded. I'm late to the party. That joint got fire. It's a classic. I'm for the
right,
download it right now.
right. And look, like we said, for a kid who's 12, well, that's their Source Magazine 5 mic
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that's how I knew that album or that mixtape was fire.
Oh
So
man, you just took me back, man. I remember that like it was yesterday now.
yeah, right. Like you pop on there, you like, oh, word, okay. Such got a new album.
And
I mean,
somebody got like 2 stars, but man, I ain't downloading. I'm just going to listen
right,
to it
nah,
though. You
nah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You be like, I'm gonna go hit the little play joint. I'm gonna listen to it, but I ain't downloading. They ain't give it 2 stars though. That joint got
right,
5. I ain't even got to listen. Where my blank CD at, dog? Go
right,
ahead, write their name on it and go ahead and put that joint in.
right. And for people like during the blog era, this is what makes it even doper, right? Because we talked about the technology and the time and stuff like that. But if you go to like 2009, where a lot of these probably like the peak 2009, 10, or whatever of like these mixtapes and these websites, well, we have the introduction of the iPhone and we have Blackberries. And what the iPhone did that maybe Blackberries didn't do at the time was the iTunes store. So
Oh,
now it was kind of like, oh, in Android, but now it was kind of like, wait a minute, this music can go with me? Like, I don't
yeah,
have to burn a CD. I could plug right in and boom, I have it. And that just made people download more shit and load up music and obviously before the iPhone there was the iPod, which really did it. Which I remember having mad mixtapes from that time just
yeah,
on the iPod, just ready for a rotation. So I think people need to understand that even though this is a certain era, and there are certain people who maybe were older than us and didn't really experience it because they was off that. But for us, we music lovers, we to the core, and it wasn't even really our era, but we were a part of it
Yeah.
because we just in a certain space as Generation X where we know what it used to be, and we were there early for the internet, so we kind of fit in with everything that's happening. But Tone, what do you think this era of hip hop conversation online, written work about hip hop, chat rooms, comment sections, and obviously the music that came out of that blog era. What impact do you think it had on the music that came afterwards and everything we've experienced afterwards?
Oh my God, man. Everything. I
Mm,
mean, every aspect of hip. Since we're talking about hip hop music right now, not any other genre, but for every genre probably. But for hip hop, that era, it laid the groundwork, man, for the next generation of for the artists, how they, outside of label stuff, how they gonna, I'm gonna be independent. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go on the internet. I'm gonna start my own website. I'm gonna start my own message board on my website. Let my fans talk to me about my music. I'm gonna sell my stuff on here. I'm gonna sell merch on here. I'm gonna do all this kind of stuff on here. I mean, it changed everything. At the end of the day, it was a season of some pirating going on also. Then it got to a point where some of those sites, you might have to pay $5 for the download, you know what I'm saying, to get a certain project and stuff like that. It wasn't free because all of it wasn't free, but most of it was. But it set up the next wave where now the artists have been in contact with fans so many years. Once they start their own thing, fans start buying their music straight directly through them and other merchandise and all that. So it did that for the artists. For the fans, it just gave, it just continued that voice that we was able to have way back 20 some years ago on those message boards. Where some people, and hopefully a lot of people get a lot from this episode, because Twitter and Twitter and IG and all that, that's just a new name and it's done different. But we was doing this already. Like I said, I was the same the debates that people see me and you have, or especially with me or a lot of people on Twitter. I had these same debates 22 years ago on OK Player. So
mm,
all that blog era did was open up the groundwork for these business people or these creators to create these other big platforms like the Twitters and saying, and IG and Facebook. Because you can talk about music on Facebook too.
right.
Facebook basically a message board too. You know what I'm saying? You can post a video, comment section, you talk about it, what it is. So stuff really ain't changed that much. It just got elevated just a little bit, man. But that era changed everything. We didn't have that era. We're not sitting here right now. It's that important.
Yeah, it is.
All the creators on YouTube and everywhere else, all this started from your MySpaces, from your datpiffs, from your worlds. All this stuff had to happen to get. It was a natural progression.
Yeah, I
Everyone,
what'd you say?
for everyone, natural progression.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone had to adapt, whether you're a fan, an artist, a record label, an advertiser who used to advertise
Yeah,
in a different way with music.
yeah,
For people who used to write for the hip hop DXs and stuff, they had to change. They had to broaden their
yeah.
scope for the most part to survive. Whereas places like allhiphop.com still exist, but really as a shell of itself. As a result, and one thing I wanted to point out, because I like your point about like content creation and how a lot of that stuff birthed this. I mean, I was doing video album reviews on video on MySpace back then. Like and we're talking '07,
Oh
'08.
yeah, oh yeah.
Used to do straight up, people would watch them. It was a different time because now everything is hot topics and shit and hot takes and who can you be angry at or what can you be
Back
angry
then, it was just
about?
about the music for
It
sure.
was just about the music, you know what I'm saying?
Arguing about music. That was it.
Right, right. And respectable arguments.
Yeah,
So I agree. I think like for the artists that we named, who are all bigger artists now, who all found landing spots. And kudos to somebody, Lil Wayne, who was on that wave where he didn't have to be, having dedicated mixtape series, No Ceiling,
Yep.
The Drought. You know what I'm saying? Kind of really taking advantage with that while doing the Carter series
Yep.
was unheard of. Or Joe Budden being early with the podcasting game, with the
Yep.
reality TV
Joe
on the
Budden
internet.
TV.
Right, Joe Budden TV, and the conversations around that. So a lot of this stuff, to Tone's point, it's just been happening for a while. You just haven't really paid attention to the timeline.
Yep.
All right. So, what do y'all think about the blog era? Did were you on datpiff getting all them mixtapes, waiting for the drop like us? Because we was
Yeah.
on it. Did you have the spool? I think that's what it's called. Spool of the CDs on deck with the marker. You had to have a marker to be like,
Yeah, that marker.
to put that on. Me and Tone, we got them in the crib. We just didn't get up and bring them.
Sure.
But Tone, real quick, what are some of your favorite mixtapes from that era?
Jeez. Man, one of them I really like, man. And I mentioned it earlier, man. I really like that Wale Back to the Feature, man. You know what I'm saying? Like he had this dope song on there with Jean Grey. He had a joint on with Currency and J. Cole called Rather Be With You. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, the production was dope, man. Like that Wale joint was really good, man. That one comes to mind. That Piff, man, I had so many of them, man, like different Lil Wayne joints, man, different Currency joints. J. Cole at the time, man, his early mixtape run, man, leading up to Friday Night Lights. You know what I'm saying? Like, but before that, man, which one was that, man? The warm up, man, the come up, those joints during that time period. I remember, I think I got the warm up and the come up from that Piff. You know what I'm saying? So for real. So I think those three ones I really like a lot. Early Joe Budden joints, man. Before he had some joints before Move Music. You know what I'm saying? That I used to listen to too, man. But what about you?
I got a quick little list, like some of my favorites that I still even play to this day, and people get excited because some of it is now available on streaming services. But Lil Wayne, No Ceilings, like I played
those ceilings.
I played that to death, man. J. Cole, Friday Night Lights, which we did an episode on. That y'all go check out. We did a whole episode on that joint. Drake, So Far Gone.
Yep.
I remember feeling like there's nothing like this out, and this is hot. Like,
and let me say something real quick. And my homeboy said something on Facebook about So Far Gone a couple of years ago because of me. He came to my crib one evening, man, and I was sipping on something. I said, man, this is new dude, man. I'm gonna put this CD in and see what you think about it, dog. Because he's always come over there because he's like me to make him locks CDs because he's a little locks. So I'll make my own little locks mixtape for him. But anyway, I played So Far Gone. I said, bro, this kid Drake, he gonna be a star, yo. I said, listen to that. I said, listen how the intro of So Far Gone. This dude singing, then he started rapping. Then all them other songs on there, certain songs on there he was spitting on, certain songs on he's singing. Then the look and everything. I said, this dude is gonna be a star.
Yeah.
And then when Thank Me Now, whatever came out, Thank Me Later, whatever, I said that he out of here, man. You know? Yep. And that was when I heard, because I heard Comeback Season and Rule for Improvement already. I thought dude could rap.
Right.
Because he had already done the song Think Good Thoughts with Elzon Fonte that Knife did with that Nita Baker beat. So I'm like, yeah, dude can spit. He already rocked with the Underground. You know, he loved Bun B and all these cats like that. I said, dude can rap. But when I heard So Far Gone, then I started seeing where, okay, this is something different.
It was,
he found his lane.
Yeah, it was a dope time when you think about it because you just didn't have access like this before.
When did those soul tapes come out from Fabulous?
That was much later. That might have been
later. That was later.
It might have been when the blog era started to fade and social media taking over. But yeah, Joe Budden, Moon Music, 2 and 4, especially that intro on 2, killed that shit. Wiz Khalifa and Currency, How Fly.
Okay.
That joint was crazy. And Jay Electronica, Style Wars, the
Stop.
original.
Yeah. That was the first one, wasn't it?
That was the first one that he
Yeah.
put out before Exhibit C, for those keeping
Yeah,
score.
that's right.
That was the one, again, when I went to Carnegie Hall to see Mos Def and Robert Glasper before Black Radio. And Mos performed some lyrics off of that mixtape. And I was like, damn, who's this dude? Because Mos was already a star. I'm like, who's this dude? He performing his lyrics? Like, he must be dope.
You're right.
Went to MySpace, found them, listened to it, messaged them and all of that. But it was just a dope time for music discovery. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Man.
Discovering new artists, getting dope joints. And even to your point, like with Fabulous, because it was still being used back then, even though it's faded. Like him having a soul tape series.
Yeah. I mean, people were saying that his soul tape series was better than his albums.
Yeah, I definitely would co-sign that.
A lot of people were saying that, man, that them soul tapes, man, like, yo, I wish this was his official release. And certain guys back then during that era, they would drop a mixtape and you would say, that's better than their debut album. Or that's better than some of their albums. I mean, I remember hearing Friday Night Lights, and I was like, well, whenever this dude do his albums, he got some big shoes to fill, because this Friday Night Lights sound like a classic to me. You know what I'm saying? And like Veg said, we did an episode on that. But yes, Fab did the same thing. Wayne was having those mixed. When you have a mixtape like Lil Wayne was, like, okay, you gotta make sure these carders are right, because your mixtapes are stupid.
Yeah.
That whole time, a lot of people blew up with mixtapes during that era.
Right. And for those keeping score, obviously it was way more than that. Like Big Sean kind of came up in that way. Nicki Minaj also. But then there were the almost like the precursor to the thing of like Dipset and G Unit, because they were still putting out tape. It was just a time where, to Tone's point, you were getting a lot of music, but there was something about knowing that was a mixtape, go get it off a website, release only, versus Def Jam's official release. It was just a rawness about
that. It was.
Compared. So leave your comments in the comments below as far as your favorite mixtapes from the blog era, some of the sites you used to frequent, and how you see that connecting to what we do with social media, content creation via podcasts and YouTube like we do now. But we have one question for y'all to end the show off. And Tone, we start with you. It's 2025. What are some of your hip hop predictions for the new year? We had a big year last year, but now it's a new year. So what's on tap?
I think a few things. I think that Kendrick Lamar, and since we're only 2 weeks away, I think that Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance is going to be monumental. I really believe that it's just some energy in the air, man, with this wave that Kendrick is on right now. You don't see this. You only see this a few times every so many years in hip hop. The wave of Snoop Dogg coming through, the wave of 50 Cent coming through, the wave of Eminem, the wave of Lil Wayne and Kanye. Just certain times, Drake, even certain times where somebody really just was dominating. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z dominance at some point and all this stuff like that. It's really a moment, man, where he can't miss right now. You know what I'm saying? And I honestly think that he's going to light up the Super Bowl. And I think that before this year is up, K-Dot going to drop another album. You know what I'm saying? I think that Nas and Premier is going to happen this year. I through the grapevine, I think at one point several months ago, 8-9 songs was already done. You know what I'm saying? So I think that album is going to happen. I think it's going to drop on Nas' birthday. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's September. So I think that's going to happen. That's a long time from now, but I think it's going to happen then. I think they're going to sit on it to then. Could be wrong. Maybe come out this summer, but I would predict that it's going to be September. I think that volume 2 of the auditorium from Common and Pete Rock, I don't think they're going to wait a long time. I think maybe by the end of this year, it might come out this year. I think Lil Wayne is gonna drop. I think it's been a lot of stuff going on with Wayne. That new some song I just heard someone post the other day, and I reposted it. If this gonna be something for this Carter 5, because he said it's coming out this year, the Carter 5 or 6, I think the Carter 6, maybe Carter 6. Carter 6. I think he has something to prove. I think that he's feeling a certain way just in general. And I think this album from Wayne, I predict it'll be something on the lines of that Carter 2. I think he's going that hard. So that's what I think for this year, man. And also I think a lot of other guys who might not be so famous gonna have some big years, man.
Yeah, I could see all of that happening. To be honest, it just feels like the momentum is there for it to happen. I think for me, a lot of it, some of those are what I would say the same thing also. But I think for me, I think people will forgive J. Cole once he drops his album.
I believe so too.
He's just sometimes it's the thing that we say Drake should do. Fall back, get them joints together, and then drop and don't even discuss what happened because it happened. It's over. It was last year. That's that. But I think J. Cole is focused on that.
I
And
believe so too.
even though, we talk mess about the song he dropped, that shit was kind of hot though. Like,
I thought it was very dope.
Right. But I think because people were so attached to the battle and the
Yeah, they didn't receive it the way they should have.
Right. But once he gets that take that shit out of the lyrics. It happened, we all know, and focus on whatever you plan on making. I think it'll be easy for most people to be like, yeah, I forgot how dope he is.
Hey, you know what, man? I said this on Twitter recently. Music wins at the end of the day. Y'all can feel how you feel about J. Cole. And yes, he did some BS to the hip hop purists. I get it, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm NC. I was pissed off at J. Cole a little bit. But at the end of the day, you gonna sit and tell me if 4-5 months from now, whenever J. Cole dropped this, let's say his album is amazing. Right. Also, you're gonna boycott some dope music because of some rap battle. It's gonna be right there in the car, like any battle with common sense.
Right. Yeah, I feel like because even like again, we did a whole show on this, me, Tone, and Kill, talking about the apology and all that stuff. We're not the type to like hold on. Well, Kill sometime is, but he can be persuaded. Trust me. But we're not the type to hold grudges over music. If something's good, it's good. And what he did is not on the level of some of the other artists who are serving prison time or going to serve prison time. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody who just didn't want to get into a back and forth with somebody who he considers the homie.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. If he drops some dope music, we're here to receive it. One thing I hope happens, because I'm not the biggest fan of posthumous albums, especially when it's piecemeal, like a couple verses here and there. But I think, and I'm not saying with Gangstar specifically, but what Premier did with that Gangstar album, it felt like Guru was here to make
it. Did.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's the blueprint. So I am praying this Mobb Deep album comes close to that.
Oh man, I hope so.
You know what I'm saying? Just like one last time. This is what we got from P, and it sounds like a Mobb Deep album. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, me too.
It's past time, for something like that. But I know there was a lot of red tape with, his lyrics, and not his lyrics, but his verses, his music. It wasn't just like all within Havoc's possession to just put out. But now he kind of has the green light, so
yeah,
we'll see. All right, y'all. So what do y'all think? What are some of your predictions for 2025? Hip hop predictions, that is. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, share with people who enjoy this kind of content. Check out the homie Tony's podcast, intothedome.com. A range of subject matter, numerous guests, opinions. He's famous on Twitter. So just don't come with no BS either. You know what I'm saying? But you know, this, like he said earlier, man, he been doing this since before the blog era, talking about hip hop. Same thing with me. Like, you think it started because I got on a radio show? I got the radio show because I know hip hop. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And these types of conversations we had on the radio during the Nas Jay Z beef and
Yep.
during the release of Supreme Clientele, like we were there.
Woo! I remember that like it was yesterday.
You know what I'm saying? We were doing this, not only playing the music, but discussing the music on and offline on a regular basis. And this is just kind of the fruits of that labor, and shows like this, we hope, educate some people and remind them of how rich hip hop music and culture is. Until next time, y'all, go out and support real hip hop. Peace.
Peace.